When I heard 3.8 million, I couldn't hardly compose myself. I sat on my hands to keep them from wanting to, do this. But the judge asked the foreman to sit down. Thank you. The judge asked the foreman of the jury to sit down. And he explained to the jury and to me that I was only entitled to $300,000. Congress in 1991 put a cap on the limited amount of money an individual like me can get. If I'd worked for a smaller employer, it would have been $50,000. But I worked for a major corporation and I was entitled to $300,000. Now 2 years back pay is all the law allows, 2 years. I worked 19 years shortchanged when I learned and filed a charge, but I'm only entitled to 2 years back pay. And there's nothing in the law that allows an individual to get any of those back lost wages on the overtime hours or your retirement adjusted. You cannot get even the Social Security adjusted. There's nothing in the law that will cover that. So the people who came out against the Ledbetter bill, the opponents, they went around the country, and especially in Washington, lobbying and arguing for the corporations, saying how it would be such a hardship for all these major employers to fight if we got that bill changed back to the Ledbetter bill. Because my people, the women, they'd just be working 40 or 50 years, and they'd probably just wait till they retired and they'd file a suit and get all these big bucks. Well, I'm here to tell you there's not any big money in a case like this. If you really want a big award, buy a lottery ticket. You got a better change. Well, what happened in my case, it was really, we went to the 11th Circuit Goodyear appeal. 11th Circuit is Atlanta, Georgia. It's the worst one in the country. They threw the case out. We appealed again. Went to the Supreme Court, November 2006. Oh, what's wrong with my throat this morning? In 2006, in November, we were heard in the Supreme Court. I sort of knew the handwriting on the wall when the Equal Employment Commission had written the bill and been there alongside my attorney to argue on my behalf all the way through the 11th Circuit. We got to the Supreme Court, the United States attorney got on Goodyear's side. The Goodyear attorney had 20 minutes, and then he sat down, and the United States attorney got up and had 10 minutes of their time to argue why they should not award or find in Ledbetter's favor. Because they were talking about people would just come out of the woodwork 70 years back. Why, it might even be a relative that would file a suit. But you have to file your suit within 180 days of having still received a check. So I don't think anybody 70 years down the road would still be getting a check. But they was arguing to scare the public to try to keep the Congress from passing this bill. The Ledbetter bill is exactly what it was prior to the ruling in my case, except for the name. Now remember, I filed this charge in 1998. 2007, May, was the verdict. 5-4. No, in favor of Goodyear. January of 2009, the law was put back to exactly where it was prior to the ruling in the Ledbetter case. That's 11 years. To get equal pay for equal work. After the Supreme Court case, Goodyear sent me a bill for $3,165 printing costs. I never saw the bill. The Birmingham attorney sent a copy to the media. The Washington attorney sent it to a law school, and they started inquiring for additional proof that the printing costs really existed. I never saw the bill. I've never heard from it since. But the media immediately, once the verdict came out, hit with all power they had. And I'm proud to say that I've never had, I don't think, a bad media interview or story. It's been favorable, and what I like is not for me, because I'll never get a dime. I will never see any monetary gain from this, unless my book sells. It comes out next year. But the problem is, this is your story. It's every household in this country. And it is time that we get more women in politics, more women on boards. You look at if you own any stock and you get a report, look at who's sitting on the board. There might be one woman. There might be. And she probably won't be African American or any other little white woman, but it probably won't even be more than one. They've kept control, and we've got to get more women involved because we're talented, we're skilled, and we're smart. We're well educated. But this has opened up a lot of doors for me, and I want to do what I can for the people that's out there working today to help them in their careers. Equal pay law went on the books in 1963, Title VII in 1964, and in 2008 I toured the country and lobbied in Washington for equal pay. Something is wrong in this country to be doing that. I've talked to families, I've talked to people in airports, how they've suffered and how they've been held back. One of the stories is the lady who worked for an investment firm that I met in an airport. She had just retired. She retired making $85,000 and made it for the last 10 years. But she made $30,000 as a receptionist secretary for an investment firm. They needed 2 men to help them back when the interest rates were really high and a lot of people was investing and the business was booming. But they couldn't find them, so they said, well, she knows how to run the office, we'll just promote her. So they moved her up to being an investment person, whatever the title. Paid her 85 instead of 30. 10 years later, she retired, making 85. But in the meantime, they hired 2 men, started them out at 125. And I'm sure they got raises along the 10 years because most employers say, well, that guy's got a family. I have to pay him more. That's not true today. The women have families too, and did back then. Nothing against you fellas, because it has helped you too. And what I've enjoyed about campaigning for equal pay, the men did. They did in Denver last year when I spoke at the Democratic Convention. The men in the front that I could see was going, yes, yes, we've got to get it, we've got to get it. And the women were crying, and I've just torn up the speaking system. But that was quite an honor to have that kind of reception and know that people understand. In my hometown, where it's a small college town, a lot of the retired professors have written letters and speak out in support of the Ledbetter bill because, you see, they've got daughters, they've got daughter-in-laws, and their wives were shortchanged back when they worked. Now, Justice Alito wrote the opinion for those guys who voted against the Ledbetter bill, or the Ledbetter case. He said that we women should know within the first 6 months when our pay is set or a raise is given whether or not we're being discriminated against and file our charge within 180 days. Well, for most of you, that would be when you hire in on a new job, they set your pay that day. And every raise you get will be based on that. And if you start out behind, you can never catch up. You put you down a little math problem and work it through, you can never catch up. You can even get a higher percentage raise later than the men, and you still can't catch up because you've got to stay competitive and in there. But in my case, Goodyear was such a large facility, I did not even know where all the restrooms were in 6 months because they were over a big acreage. It was 4,200 people in 5 divisions when I hired in Gadsden.